Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric series. Who's Nintendo suing this week and why are they suing them? And we have a really fun and interesting follow-up story to a lawsuit Nintendo filed earlier in the summer, right around the time that spring turned into summer, because there was a big lawsuit against a pirate named Archbox. And basically what happened was Nintendo was somehow able to identify them as one of the leading pirates in the overall emulation scene. And basically today we now know how Nintendo did it. It's wild, filled with subterfuge, a lot of twists and turns, and basically shows just the lengths Nintendo will go to find you and shut you down, because we already lost Yuzu, we've lost Suyu, we've lost Ryujinx as well. Nintendo's been basically doing a full court press against streamers showing games that shouldn't be running on Switch, so it really is interesting to see how this is all being done in the background and to explain to you guys exactly how far Nintendo's willing to go to make sure you don't do this in the future. So we now have details in court filings how Nintendo was able to find who Archbox was through hiring a law firm to basically research his Reddit post as well as repair information he sent into Nintendo himself and other identifying information that basically told everyone this is the person you are looking for. And to follow up, earlier in the year, July 1st here when this story broke and I talked about it, there were two different lawsuits Nintendo filed, one on modded hardware for flashcards and another one on the subreddit Switch Pirates and the moderator there, Archbox. That's what we're talking about here, and it will get into his real name in just a minute. But basically there was somebody who was spearheading the ability for others to play Nintendo games either before they were released on the market or basically without paying for them. And when I say when you do this sort of thing, Nintendo is going to find you, I 100% mean it. They have enough money, enough time, and enough motivation to find anyone they want to, and even if it takes weeks, months, or even years, they will pursue every single lead down to the very bitter end. And that's exactly what they were able to do here with Archbox. They were able to go through his Reddit post and other identifying information to basically build a profile on who they thought this person may be, until they were able to find their address via that repair order and send them a cease and desist order via FedEx. And that is just how these things kind of work. Nintendo, again, with Switch 2 coming, is full court pressing to make sure that nobody starts thinking about emulating or pirating anything on Switch or Switch 2. And again, that's probably down to the fact that the Switch 2 is going to be very derivative hardware of the original Switch, staying in the NVIDIA nuclear family, so there's probably a lot of head start information out there, and that makes them worry that their new console could and will be circumvented at some point in time, because even with this Archbox lawsuit, they continue to talk about circumvention software and bypassing the technological prevention measures they put into the hardware so that you can't actually emulate. And that is the thing we've talked about before, the exemptions to that and having interoperability of software, but it still comes down to the fact that the Switch and the game software have two different keys, and they just basically need to handshake and unlock for you to be able to play the games on the Switch hardware. So Nintendo, in this new filing, this new information, keeps talking about bypassing this, and there lies the ambiguity in all of this process. Is that allowed or is that not allowed based upon DMCA exemptions for interoperability of software and reverse engineering research? But every single court filing, when something like this comes up, they put in copyright infringement as well as circumvention of technological measures. This is the argument Nintendo makes basically every time they go for these lawsuits, and interestingly enough, they never actually sue anybody that would have any chance of actually defending themselves. Because you're going to see here, they went after one individual for violating the digital copyrights and selling pirated Switch games, and the selling of the games is an absolutely pro-tier stupid move. Do not do anything like that whatsoever, not like you guys would, but this is one of those things. Nintendo always goes after the upper echelon idiots in the situation that think that they can get away with what they're doing, and it was very easy for Nintendo to find this person as well, because on their same Reddit profile they talked about the area that they lived in and even posted reviews for places around there, including doctors' offices. This is what are called identifying details. Nintendo lawyers, whoever they hired to research this, were able to know his geographic area. So now you've removed basically 99.9% of the world, and they know you're there somewhere. And that's just not something you want to be doing. Once he actually did this, post that information, Nintendo tentatively ID'd him as an individual living in Arizona, and then they went ahead and found repair orders from this individual and was able to basically link everything together. So much so that the individual Archbox actually sent in their Switch for repairs. I definitely think they should have just gone to the store and purchased a new one if they're actually trying to do this. And traffic in these games, it really isn't something that you want to go and do. Ask the company that you're basically offending against, hey, can you fix my Switch? That is not a good thing to do, and that is how people get found. It happens all the time. Mario located this individual and now he is very mad. And just to give you a very ambiguous example, when I worked in high high-level sports and we were thinking about signing a new athlete, we always had research done to make sure that they had never done anything in their past that would misrepresent the brand, and the ability for investigators and other people to find out every single detail of your life, it is not hard whatsoever. I would get reports on that stuff all of the time, and that is how Archbox got nailed to the wall on this one. And his subreddit had 190,000 members, the subreddit that he was the moderator for. So now start doing the math if you're thinking the way Nintendo's thinking as far as damages are concerned. If you have 190,000 members and each member's downloaded one game that they didn't purchase, you just do 190,000 times 60, the average retail price of a Switch game, and Nintendo starts seeing numbers like a potential $11,400,000 loss. Now I'm not saying those are the numbers, I'm just saying you can understand how companies would start to think this way, and it is not surprising at all that Nintendo constantly goes after people that are acting foolishly because they're going to get an immediate settlement, or in this instance, they're not even going to show up to court. Archbox just basically ghosted the entire thing, didn't answer the summons to go to court, so a default judgment was entered in for Nintendo. They won the entire argument because they didn't actually have a defendant that was willing to show up to court, because that is just a civil trial. The penalty is whatever the damages are going to be. And that's the really interesting thing. Archbox even said that they would comply and cooperate with any demands or requests within their control that Nintendo requested once they sent that FedEx summons basically saying that he needed to cease and desist. So why he continued to do this sort of thing and then basically ghosted on Nintendo, honestly, it's really up for debate as to why someone would do something like that. But just like the previous lawsuit we talked about last week, where a streamer basically taunted Nintendo, showing them playing pre-release games on Switch that were being emulated, Nintendo loves to pick apart cases like this because they're easy slam dunk wins. Not only does the defendant probably not have the financial means to actually defend themselves, but the cases are so ironclad as to what the person's doing, it is an instantaneous win, and then they have one more settlement in a civil court that they can point to in the future saying, see, we won this case as well. And that is why Nintendo keeps pursuing these type of cases as far as trafficking, circumvention, the technological prevention measurements. They do this because they know it's an easy W to notch on their belt, and they just go with it from there. So don't be stupid, don't taunt Nintendo. Now, one footnote on the Palworld lawsuit as well, there's been a couple additional bits of information, and a lot of you were asking me questions in the comments about the very small amount of money Nintendo was actually pursuing as far as damages were concerned when it came to the Palworld lawsuit. So I want to talk a little bit more about this, go over the new details, and explain to you what an injunction truly means, and that's why Nintendo is pursuing this. Because right now, if you go over to PlayStation blog and they talk about the most popular games on PlayStation in October, Palworld is the most popular game for PlayStation 5, so as far as Nintendo sees it, a direct competitor, Sony, is giving a showcase to a game that Nintendo doesn't like, Palworld, and it is the #1 most successful game on the Surface PlayStation Store as of the recording of this video, and that is why they're just seeking $65,000 as far as a settlement is concerned, but they're actually not really seeking those damages whatsoever, because those aren't really real damages. Palworld probably makes that in about 20 minutes. What they're actually trying to do is remove a competitor from the market, and Palworld could technically be at risk of removal, and what that would mean is that Palworld could not sell or distribute the game until all of the different patent infringements were removed from the code. That would mean a redesign of the overall mechanics of the game, and it would allow Nintendo to basically tell everyone, if you're going to try to compete directly with us in a genre that we feel like we own, such as Pokemon, we are going to pursue anything against you that we can possibly find. And again, those patents are very vague at best. But that's kind of the update right now. Nintendo is still pursuing anything they can find with the most legal power they can possibly muster up, and if you are going to do something bad, and trust me, you should not be doing it, don't go on Reddit with the same account that you post about this and then go and talk about doctors' recommendations in certain towns in Phoenix, because any researcher worth their weight is going to be able to find all this information and link it back to you without breaking a sweat. I've seen it done 100 times. It isn't hard. You cannot hide, and Nintendo is looking. But sure to that, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. We'll see you guys next time Nintendo sues someone, and at this rate, it'll probably be in a couple days. Bye-bye.